How are we, boys? Hopefully good. In this one, we're going to be looking at why UFC is fucking shit. More specifically, why Dana White is a cunt. But before we get started, I'm going to have to clear up something that I did in my previous video.
Hey guys, it's the Grim Reader here.
Now, it's not going to make any sense to you out of context, but if you go back to my previous video, you're going to realise that my impersonation wasn't as cringy as it once was. But still pretty bad. Well, without further ado, let's get on to the video, shall we? This video is mainly going to be about that tomato-ass looking motherfucker, Dana White, and why he's a cunt. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the sport of MMA more than the next guy, and I even love the company UFC. UFC has done great things for the sport of MMA, and has done great things as a company. But recently, UFC, and in particular Dana White, have been doing some pretty sketchy things that have resulted in some pretty horrible outcomes for the fighters. And the fighters at this point are getting shit upon. And I'm going to be looking at things from the point of view of the fighters, because they're the ones that are doing the work for the company. And a fighter was quoted as saying, I can't remember who it was, so it's just going to be an anonymous quote, fighters are getting the shit kicked out of them more outside of the ring than they are inside the ring at this point. Think about that. First and foremost, we have the Reebok deal. Approaching the end of 2014, UFC and Dana White made a deal with Reebok that made pretty much any sponsorship that UFC fighters previously had with other companies redundant, meaning that they could only sponsor Reebok merchandise. Now, if you look at fights from 2013 and before, you can see that the shorts of the fighters will have a lot of different companies on them. But in more recent fights in 2017, the shorts are more plain and a lot more boring, and they are just, solely Reebok. After making the deal, Dana White was quoted as saying that this would add a certain class to the company, and he made a comparison between NASCAR and the shorts of the fighters, saying that there shouldn't be sponsorships all over the shorts because it makes it look bad. But the thing is, there are much larger and much more evident sponsors all throughout the octagon even today. In all honesty, who the fuck ever paid attention to the shorts anyway? And in my opinion, I think the more diverse and greater range of shorts looked better. This makes it seem like Dana White banned it because it wasn't making him money, it was making the fighters money. And as the president of the corporation, that is just disgusting. And this obviously pissed off fighters, as some had contracts making them hundreds of thousands a year, and now they're lucky to get over 10 grand. This has led to many bigger name fighters going over to Bellator MMA, the rival company, including Gegard Mousasi, and Gegard was actually quoted as saying he would rather 10,000 from a company of his own choosing than Reebok.
It's normal.
No, Anderson, that is not normal. If this hypocrisy continues, and all the good fighters end up going to Bellator MMA, people aren't going to give a shit about the massive UFC name. They're going to want to go to where the good fighters are to watch their fights. So, UFC, check your shit before you break your hip. And the next thing to plague UFC and MMA, and pretty much every other sport, bandwagon fucking fans! You know the ones that pretend to be fans of one fighter until they lose. Examples of this would be the comments on videos leading up to the fight between Michael Bisping and Luke Rockhold at UFC 199. And as we know, bandwagon fans ride hype trains more than Indians ride actual trains. There was the Luke Rockhold hype train after the win over the All-American, which meant that everyone was saying that Bisping had no chance and Luke Rockhold was going to have easy sailings.
Sir. And everybody, thank you! And this is still my boy!
But it's not as if I was rooting for Bisping due to his savoury words towards Australia. He was actually quoted as saying that the British colonised Australia and they made us unsavage, and as for that, we should respect him. And of course, after saying something stupid like that, the crowd is going to boo, they're not going to like you, and they're definitely going to fucking not respect you. But anyhow, Luke Rockhold was being cocky inside the octagon, which is the only place that you probably shouldn't be cocky. He got knocked out, Bisping got the title, and ever since then, he's been a bitch about it. And I say he's been a bitch about it because he's been ducking fights more than Mike Tyson ducks punches. And he's also just been a complete dick too. And as per usual, after the fight, the faithless, cockless bandwagon fans had been saying that they had been supporting Bisping the entire time, and they coined the ingenious term Luke Cockhold, which of course angered me because Luke's not a bad guy, albeit he's very awkward around women.
You rather swallow or spit, girl?
What? That's inappropriate.
But, he's a good fighter, and he respects people that he's beaten, unlike Bisping.
I respect you, of course I do. You're a great guy, you handle yourself with class. That was an amazing fight. I'm looking forward to fighting you.
This video is not linear at all, and I apologise for that, but that's going to bring us to our next topic, and the person who is most culpable for all of these crimes against humanity that UFC has committed, Dana White. And he may not have been the one that did all of these fuck-ups and made all the decisions, but as the UFC president and the guy who's making the most money in the entire corporation, he's going to take the rap for it. As the president of such an athletic company, he himself is pretty pathetic. Even when he was younger, he could hardly do 12 chin-ups.
5 more. 3 more, man. You got this.
And he's judging his fighters on their athletic ability. It gets worse, because in recent interviews and press conferences, he's red and round as all hell, and he can hardly get through a few sentences without having to catch his breath. At this point, he almost matches the bill for one of those photos with before and after drugs. And I would not doubt that he's spending his massive paycheck that he does not deserve on all kinds of drugs and shit. Because luckily for him, USADA doesn't check businessmen. I could go on about how greedy and overpaid Dana White is all day, and how the fighters, the ones getting hit, and in many cases, the ones that are doing pretty well at promoting their fights, should be getting paid way more, and probably should be getting paid more than Dana White is for their fights. But I'm just going to leave you with this. He's booked Kendrick Lamar for his son's 16th birthday. If that's not privileged, I don't know what is. And if you want to know what that little kid looks like, here's a photo of him getting with some missuses, probably because he's rich. But either way, that kid is a lucky son of a bitch. And that's not a hit at his mum, I mean that Dana White's the bitch. But the worst thing about Dana White above all else is he's just a shit bloke to his fighters. Not all, but quite a few of them. And before UFC 214 at the press conference, he straight out promised Tyron Woodley that he'd be getting the GSP fight. And he said that the Bisping GSP fight, that ship had sailed.
That is the plan as of the last time that I talked.
They're going to ask to fight Bisping because George don't want to fight me.
What'd you say?
They're going to ask to fight Bisping because George doesn't want to fight me.
Listen, the Bisping ship has sailed. It's gone. If you win on Saturday, it's going to be you, pal.
And then in typical cuck fashion, after UFC 214, he gave the fight to Bisping, just betraying Tyron Woodley. Now, the reason Dana White didn't give the fight to Tyrone is because him versus Damian Maia broke the record for the least strikes ever thrown in a fight. And Tyrone only ended up landing about 20 shots to Damian Maia's face, and it ended up looking like this, which does just show how much of a beast Tyron Woodley is, and that's why I love him. But Dana White knew. He knew that Damian Maia was the best grappler ever to be in MMA, and he knew that Tyrone was a very reclusive fighter. So obviously this is going to happen. So this was definitely Dana White's fault. I'm going to talk about the GSP being welterweight. He doesn't deserve the middleweight fight with Bisping, and how Robert Whittaker, the first contender, an Australian, and it would rate Bisping, deserves it. But I'll just let John Jones talk about Dana White loving money above all else.
He's shown his true colors, man. When you're making the money, you're his everything. If you're not making the money, he kind of disappears. So now I just focus on talking to Ari when it comes to business.
And Dana White is even cringy. For example, when he was pretty much Connor's pimp and tried to do a Bruce Buffer impersonation.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reigning, defending UFC lightweight champion of the world, the notorious Conor McGregor!
Dana, sit down, you pathetic piece of shit. Just let Connor talk. That way we would have got more of Connor roasting Floyd's team members. Take a look at this.
Grab me one, let me see what it look like. See if this bitch wanna bet this.
Do what you're told, bitch.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping.
Now, I don't claim ownership of that meme, I just think it's funny as hell, and thank you if you made it. If you did make it, comment it and I'll give you credit, whatever. Anyway, Who do you think's going to win out of Floyd and McGregor? I do think that Floyd's going to win by decision, but I want Conor to win, and I know that Conor can hit a hell of a lot harder, and I just love Conor because he's funny as. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like the video because it took a while to make. Please comment on what you want to see next. Please also comment on what video you want in the background. Please click the little bell for notifications so you can be the annoying person who always, comments first. Please subscribe because that helps so much. And please also share the video with your friends so I can get famous, man. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Baby, can you move it on the